Practical Talk Time. I'm Sandy Wrobel, your host, and today we have Mary Larew back with us. She is the new music executive director of the Music Center in Danbury here, the Danbury Music Center, and this is our second show with us. And we'd like to continue talking about the Suzuki method of music and some other areas of upcoming concerts and maybe a little bit more about her background. Welcome back, Mary.
Thank you,
It's good
Sandy.
to have you back again.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, this is fun.
It is.
When we finished the last show, we were running out of time, and we were talking about the Suzuki method.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know more, and I think our audience would be interested in it too.
Sure.
Even though it's not part of what the Music Center is teaching, I don't think.
Not at this point.
But I was just fascinated.
Sure.
When you said it's, by technique. So we had left off where you were saying you don't even have a violin. And I thought they automatically just gave you like a small violin.
Yeah.
And you said no. Could you show us what's so important about the technique? A little bit. Maybe with your cell phone. I don't know. Is that the size of the...
Oh.
Well, you were 3 or 4.
Yes, I started violin lessons when I was 4, and I was quite a sedate child. I was very shy, but most 3 and 4-year-olds are very wiggly. And I've worked as a violin teacher, and something I just love about that age is the energy is uncontainable, and they're rolling around the room. But if you're going to play the violin, you've got to learn how to stand very still. And so there are ways that you learn how to put your feet. So if my hands are like my feet, you start off, this is kind of called the rest position where your toes and heels are together, and then you learn how to distribute your weight so that you're balanced. Because the violin is such an asymmetrical instrument, you can't just stand with your feet even. It's got to be supportive of what the rest of your body's doing. So the first thing the kids learn how to do is their feet. Then they learn how to hold the violin with their head so that their head is resting on the violin, and they learn how to put their hand and their wrist so that their fingers can move with agility and with intonation. And they learn how to hold the bow and move their bow arms so that there's a lot of fluidity of the motion there. So even without a violin, we could probably have a whole violin lesson just on kind of learning those basic movements. So that's how it begins.
I am absolutely amazed. I thought you play the violin, you take the violin, and that's it, you just go. I didn't know it starts with the feet.
Yeah, you wouldn't guess it, but it starts with the feet.
Oh, that is fascinating, that the whole body is actually involved in it.
Very much so, yes. Yeah.
Now, anyone who's taking violin lessons, if it's not the Suzuki method, they might not be taught that?
That's true. Yeah, you will see violinists who don't put their feet in a particular way, and maybe they hold the violin a little differently. Certainly, if you look at fiddlers who play more folk music, dance music, some fiddlers even hold their violins so they come and hit them right at the chest or at the arm. And I was describing the positioning of the wrist. Well, maybe it's completely different, but that facilitates a different kind of sound and makes it difficult to make the sound of a classical violinist with a lot of strength to the tone and sweetness of tuning and that kind of thing. So
that means with your training and your background, if you're looking at even an orchestra or someone playing, you would be able to tell if they started with the Suzuki method.
I have to brag about one moment I had. I heard this band that I cannot recommend highly enough. So if you're watching, look them up. They're called the Stray Birds.
Stray Birds?
Stray Birds. And they're a bluegrass band. They write their own songs. It's a trio. And 2 of them were fiddling. And that day I had taught 8 hours of violin lessons, and then I came to this gig. And their technique was so extraordinary. I said, they learned Suzuki, and afterwards I went up and asked them, and sure enough, they did. It was really remarkable because they were playing fiddle music, but they were playing with that technique.
Now, did it make a difference in the quality of the sound?
Yeah,
as well?
Their tuning was excellent. Yeah, and that's part of it. And bluegrass music is very virtuosic anyway, so I think probably having classical Suzuki style technique really helped them.
Now this is interesting. I have no obvious background in any of this. Let's say there are two parents and they decide they're two different families. They're sending a child for violin lessons, and they start comparing notes. So one might be saying, well, my child's already got the violin and playing the violin in hand. So it might appear that they're more advanced, but they might not be.
I feel very strongly that, something that I really love about the Suzuki method philosophy is the mantra, every child can. And I really believe that. I really believe every child has the ability at least to become better at the violin, or for that matter, just about anything, but take the violin. And I really, really take umbrage at parents comparing kids, because what you're looking at is one kid in one moment, in one aspect of it. And like you said, absolutely, if one kid is holding a violin and one isn't, that doesn't necessarily tell you anything about their ability or even their accomplishment, because maybe the kid with the macaroni box on his shoulder has an extraordinary technique that's really in his muscles, and maybe the kid with the violin is getting a horrible sound out of it and doesn't really have the posture lined up, and that might lead to an injury. So,
well, I remember when I taught fourth grade, I wasn't a
Yeah.
music teacher, but that's when they started instruments.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they would get 4 different instruments, and then one would be recommended to them for 5th grade band. And I remember the squeaking in the halls.
Yeah.
And that they would have like a better student showing, but of course they're teaching it to every 4th grader.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they started or what they did, because I wasn't in the class, but I remember the squeaking sounds.
It takes a long time for anyone to make a beautiful sound on the violin. It
Even
really
Suzuki.
does. It really does. It's hard. Some people just take to it like that, but almost everyone, it sounds really quite bad for quite a while. You have to just stick with it.
Well, by the time the 5th grade band would come and play,
Yeah.
and the 5th grade band,
Yeah.
they sounded good. I didn't hear,
Yeah, good.
Maybe an occasional little squeak, but it wasn't squeak, squeak, squeak.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's important, though, because like myself, if people don't have the background, it could seem that one teacher is better than the other, because that one already has the kid playing the violin.
Right. Right.
know.
Yeah, so it's important if you're looking for a violin teacher or any music teacher, if you're not a musician yourself, getting a sense of, well, how do their current students feel about it? And if your own child is studying with that teacher, how does the child take to it? Is it fun, or do they seem to be really interested in doing more? Those kinds of questions are good to ask, I think. Yeah.
Or trying different instruments, maybe it's not.
Sure, absolutely. Kids take to different things.
Now, you said that violin is not the only Suzuki method. They teach
That's right.
others. So is it in any instrument? They never play the instrument first?
So the Suzuki method has certain elements of the pedagogy, but each instrument, so there's books out, and I'm going to forget some, but there are books out for piano, viola, cello, flute, harp, guitar, bass. And so each of these books has their own set of repertoire. The Suzuki method does use books that have particular music that provides kind of the backbone of the curriculum of the learning. So each of those is a little different depending on the instrument, but all of those instruments are possible to learn through the Suzuki method.
And you said it's very disciplined.
It is very disciplined, yes.
I'm learning something I'm just fascinated with it.
It's a great method. If you want to learn more, there are some wonderful books that Dr. Suzuki wrote. One is called Nurtured by Love, and I'd recommend reading that to learn more. You can also find some really incredible videos just going on YouTube or Google, just looking up Suzuki method and seeing what some kids have accomplished through the method. It's a really extraordinary one.
So anybody listening to this, if they were really interested, that would be a good way to look at it.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, was he criticized when he first came out with his methods because they were different, or?
Yes, I think he probably did receive criticism, but also kind of a bold and successful marketing maneuver, to put it crudely, that he did, was he had a group of kids in Japan who he'd been teaching, and he brought them on a tour of the U.S., and people were just amazed. And I think he even took some of them on shows like Captain Kangaroo.
Oh, really?
So it really became something in the American consciousness, kind of all of a sudden. And so I think people were more amazed to see children who were maybe this tall playing concertos by Bach and Mozart and playing them really well.
And that was smart marketing. He just didn't keep his own little private practice.
That's right.
And that also meant that if children were watching Captain Kangaroo, they would say to their parents, possibly, I want to do that.
Yes. Yes, and that's what's so important about taking kids to live music. As we discussed in the previous show, if a kid sees someone playing an instrument, it's the most powerful way for them to connect and think, well, the most powerful is for them to try it. But if they see it and they think, I want to do that, I want to be that person.
I thought that was one of the good things when I was teaching, is that they would start in 4th grade and then they would have assemblies for the entire school. We were like K through 4. It varied from, different over all the years, but basically K through 4. And they would have the 5th grade band come, the 6th grade band, the high school. They would have different groups throughout the years, so that the kids could see, this is what I can be when I get to that grade level.
Yes.
Or they'd have brothers or sisters or friends in it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of it got cut back some when gasoline became so expensive because it cost money to put the bands on the school buses and transport them. But, they would still have it, but not all of them every year.
Yeah.
So I think that way too is also good.
Yes,
to
absolutely.
see it.
Oh my goodness, if kids see other kids doing something, that makes it so much more enticing too.
And then it also would give a wider group of friends if they're from surrounding towns, because Danbury Music Center, right? It's not just for Danbury.
No.
Which I think would be important for people to know.
Absolutely. There's no geographical restriction on membership. It's just a matter of how far people are willing to drive to come to us. But we have people from all the surrounding communities in our playing and singing in our ensembles.
Right, we even have some from New York State.
Great.
I know that come to the concert choir, and it must also be true of the other groups as well.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a real testament to the strength of these ensembles.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I'd like to know a little more about your background for the program, but I think before we do that, so we don't rush it at the end, we have a lot of different concerts that will be coming up beginning in October, November, December is when a lot of the performances are scheduled to come up. So maybe you'd like to tell our audience, about those. And if you're listening, mark your calendar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find if I don't put it in my calendar, I forget. And sometimes I'll think, I want to go to that, and I forgot.
Yes.
So I have a calendar that I keep in my pocketbook, and if I write it down, then it's there, and I know.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have to carry this everywhere.
It's a big help.
Yes. But just in case you don't have your calendar and you want to come to the concerts, we have a website which will have this information, which is Danbury Music Center, and center is with an R-E at the end, .org. So danburymusiccenter.org. But so here, our first concert of the season, Sandy's going to begin. The Danbury Concert Chorus will be Saturday, October 25th at 8 p.m. And Sandy, rehearsals have just started. Are there any pieces you love so far that you're singing in particular?
It's a very diverse group of music, all different kinds of songs. I can't think of the title, but there's one that I particularly love, a short piece, and I'm embarrassed to say I can't think of the title of it now. But it's like that, love can be stronger than death.
Oh, yes. Is it Perry, I Was Glad, maybe? Or, no, that's a big piece. There are a lot of pieces on this
I
concert.
should have brought my music in with me.
I should have too. Well, you'll just
Next
have to
time.
come to the concert.
No, but there's another one's going to be a Jewish song. There's some in French, in English, and then there's one that we just got the music last night. It's 4 parts. We're only doing the first one. It's someone that Christine Howlett knows, and it was hot off the press. Well, you probably would know that because
Right.
you had to order the music.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that's exciting too.
Yeah. Is it a world premiere, that piece? It might be.
I think that might be.
It might be a world premiere. That's
She didn't
pretty
say,
neat.
but it's very possible.
Yeah.
And then one of the pieces too, the first one is a poem set to music, and that was composed, the music is composed by Max Vladimirov, our fabulous accompanist.
He's just wonderful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have sung some of them. We haven't gotten to all of them yet.
Yeah.
We've only had 2 formal rehearsals.
Yeah.
And we meet on Tuesdays from 7:30 to 9:45.
Yeah.
And if people aren't able to join right now, they might want to just come and listen to a rehearsal.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And come to the concert, see if that might be an ensemble they'd like to join.
And if you come to the rehearsal, know the concert will be better. But it'd be very important to see what actually goes into a rehearsal.
Sure. Yeah. And the sense of how friendly it is, and
Yes.
it's really fun to join. Well, our next concert will be Sunday, November 2nd, and that is at 3 p.m. at the new Performing Arts Center, WestConn's campus, which I just visited, and it's beautiful. So if the orchestra doesn't get you there, go to the venue, but the orchestra will be tremendous. It will be a performance of Shostakovich's 7th Symphony, which is known as the Leningrad Symphony because he wrote it while Leningrad was under siege. And it's just a really pretty awesome piece of music, very intense.
Sounds like it would have to be.
Yes.
Are there any mellow parts to it, or?
Yeah, I think there are reprieves, so it's not just a total siege, but it'll be something else. And then Sunday, December 7th at 7 p.m., again at the WestConn campus, the Danbury Community Orchestra will be playing a lovely program with composers like Mendelssohn and Smetana and Delibes. And this might be my favorite, a tribute to Louis Armstrong, which will be really fun. That'll be fun to hear the orchestra play that.
So that'll be a little more diverse as well.
Yes, yeah, that'll be more just like the choir concert, a lot of different styles and pieces. On Thursday, December 11th, it's a good opportunity to check out our preparatory string orchestra, which is folks who've been playing their instruments a little while, but they aren't terribly experienced in orchestras. So maybe that's an ensemble you'd like to consider joining, and so trying out this concert would be good. That's going to be at the Danbury Music Center, which is on Main Street, and that's at 7 p.m., the preparatory orchestra. Then we have our Nutcracker Ballet that weekend, which I'm looking forward to. Have you seen that, Sandy?
I've seen it. I didn't see it last year. I don't always go every year.
Yeah.
And I did have my cousin come one year from Massachusetts, and she loved it because it was, the children. So a couple of years later, I invited her back along with her daughter-in-law at the time and her daughter, who was, young, probably about 10 years old at the time. And they also afterwards had bought tickets. They live in the Boston area for the Boston Nutcracker, and she loved this one better because it was more suited for children.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yes, where the other's more formal ballet.
Yeah.
Yes,
but this one was more fun for a child too.
Yes,
Great.
And they've Arthur has been on with Lisa, his wife, in the past. I'd like to have them back on again.
Yeah.
And it's phenomenal the work that they do.
Yes.
And the number of children.
Over 200,
I don't know how they
I think.
choreograph it. I really don't.
Yeah. So that will be at Danbury High School Friday through Sunday, December 12th, 13th, and 14th. And the tickets are for sale for that one. So more information about that show will be on our website, and I really encourage people to look into it and to join us. Then the following Friday, another favorite in our area is the Messiah performance, which is our concert chorus and also members of the symphony orchestra. And that will be at the First Congregational Church at 7:30 p.m. So that'll be a really wonderful landmark in the season, and I hope everyone will try at least one of these concerts.
Yes, and people that remember Richard Price, he'll
Right.
be the conductor, right?
Richard Price will be the conductor.
Yes.
It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, because I know people really enjoyed when he was they enjoy Christine also.
Yes.
But a lot of people certainly remember him.
Yes.
Yes.
Yesterday I had a conversation and his name came up and someone said, oh, his conducting is like he's doing ballet while he's conducting. And I thought, wow, I can't wait to see that. That sounds great.
He always has cowboy boots on.
Really?
Oh, you haven't noticed?
No. I've met him once so far.
Cowboy boots. And then
Okay.
there was one time, you know, I was a member of the concert choir, and he was conducting, and I thought, something doesn't look right with the way he's doing it all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And I looked down at his feet, and it was the only time I've seen him without cowboy boots on. He had regular shoes on,
Oh.
and I mentioned it to him during the break. And that now I'm just thinking about what you said about the violin.
Yeah.
And how their feet in a certain way.
Oh.
When he didn't have his cowboy boots on,
Yeah.
I didn't notice it. It's just that I noticed something just didn't look right with the way
Wow.
he was conducting.
It affected his whole prepresentation, huh?
To me it did. I don't know if
Interesting.
it bothered anyone else,
Yeah.
but I noticed there was a difference in it,
Interesting.
and it was the shoes.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Well, regular shoes have a lower heel than
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he has formal, and he always had, I forget what you would call it, instead of a bow tie or a tie.
Uh-huh.
A
Western style.
Yes, it's a special name, I
Interesting.
don't know what it is. Yeah,
Neat.
yeah.
Well, and we should also mention that people, even if they can't commit to the whole season of singing in the Danbury Concert Chorus, people do just join for the Messiah performance.
Yes.
So it's possible to have a more concentrated, shorter commitment.
And that has really less rehearsal time per
Yeah.
piece because it's done year after year.
Yeah.
It's a little different experience because I belong to it. Still very friendly, but because it's shortened,
Yeah.
there's pressure that you have to get it done, and hopefully there won't be any storms during the time.
Yeah, to cancel rehearsals.
Yes, yes. And the most important thing is we hope it doesn't get canceled for the performance.
Right, of
Yes,
course.
which occasionally happens, but usually
boy.
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
We have about 5 minutes left. I know that we talked about your violin playing, really didn't talk about much about your singing, but you're also a composer.
Yes.
And can you tell us, I didn't realize that you're also a composer, can you tell us what you've composed or what type of
Sure.
music you compose?
Sure. Well, because I'm a violinist and a singer, I'm most comfortable writing for strings and for voices. I, a couple of years ago, had a symphony orchestra piece premiered in Elgin, Illinois, of a youth symphony, and that piece was a 3-movement piece inspired by parts of Wallace Stevens' poem, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. So so that was probably the biggest piece I've written. And I've written a number of choral pieces and some pieces for myself to perform with my ensembles or the choirs that I sing with and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Do you think we'll ever get to sing some of your choral pieces with the concert
Gosh,
choir?
I would love that. That would be great. That would be really wonderful.
I've learned a lot just having you as a guest on this program. I wasn't
great.
aware that you were a composer. And
Yeah.
yeah.
My undergraduate degree is in composition from the Oberlin Conservatory. So,
What a wide background. You look so young. I don't know how you've had time to do all
thank
this.
you. I just drink water from the fountain of youth. I'm 80.
I actually did when I was about 10. We went to Florida and I did drink from the fountain of youth.
Well, that
I probably should go back for a big refresher.
Well, me too. Take me with you.
You're much younger than I, but it sounds good. But of course, because you started violin so young as well,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's really been always an integral part of your life.
Absolutely. Music has been basically who I am my whole life.
Now, were your parents into music as you are, or?
They were both amateur musicians through high school, college, and my father continues to play the French horn. On December 23rd, he gets a group together and they go around my hometown, Iowa City, Iowa, playing in various businesses, and so that's a fun tradition. And my mother is a guitarist and violinist, and I grew up with a lot of music in my household.
Oh, that's fascinating. Do you have brothers and sisters, or?
I have a brother, yes, and he, I really enjoy working with him. He likes to sing, and sometimes we'll perform a little bit of me on piano. I'm a terrible pianist, but he's a really fun performer. He's very hammy, so it's fun to just bang something out and he'll steal the show.
Oh, so when you get together, it must be fun as a family that you really...
Yeah, we enjoy music.
Like the Van Trapp family? Von Trapp?
That's something to aspire to.
Oh, one of them actually gave a concert here, I think it was
really?
last year in St. James, yes.
Oh, neat.
Original, I think she was the granddaughter.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fascinating too.
I bet.
And talked about her story, with the family and all. And
oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
That sounds like it's so wonderful. What advice would you give, supposing a family has a child that would like to get into music and they never did?
Yeah.
What about adults starting to take an instrument?
Absolutely. Everyone should do music in some way or other. Singing along with the radio is a great way to start. If you want to know how to get more involved in more formal music making, call up the Danbury Music Center and just say, hey, I saw your show. I want to do XYZ. How do I do that? We'll try to help you figure it out.
Right, and if you can write it down while you're listening, it's 203-748-1716 for the Music Center. If you'd like to contact us for Practical Talk Time, you can email us at practicaltalktime@yahoo.com. And we're very happy that you're watching the show. We hope you enjoy it and have or will have an interest in music, and do plan on coming to the concerts. I'm sure that you'll enjoy them, and if you don't like one particular type of music for one reason or another, try a different concert, because we always have different types of music that we're playing. Thank you for watching, and we hope to have Mary Larew back on with us another time. Good night.